So I'm going to make a video today that's completely unrelated to off-grid and lawnmower repair. I said a while back I was just going to do whatever I felt like doing on this channel. But it is going to be related to pursuing or overcoming obstacles. I mean, massive obstacles. Of course, a lot of it had to do with being stupid at 18 years old, 19 years old. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about my first days going to Washington State when I was in the Navy. So I'd been dating this girl. Also, I thought it'd be kind of nice. I better catch the fall colors. They didn't really change very well this year, but anyway, a lot of people like it. So I've been dating this girl all through my senior year, maybe even part of my junior year. I can't remember. When I graduated high school, I got this job at a little company called Doe Run, lead smeltering company in Herculaneum, Missouri. And I worked all summer. And then after that summer job ended, I did little odds and end jobs, worked at McDonald's and just, you know, different things, but nothing was panning out. And I was living by myself at the time. So I thought the Gulf War had just broke out. I think it was the day after that. I went to the recruiter's office and joined up. Said, you know, I'm gonna do my duty. So I joined up for the Navy. This was in August or September time frame, maybe. I don't remember. I'm sure somebody's going to go back in history and say the Gulf War started in but anyway. But I didn't get to go into the Navy until March, so I had a long time to wait. Then went to Chicago. Oh, it was so cold. Oh, that first day was miserably cold. And no matter what they tell you, the first day in boot camp, the first 2 days, the day you get there and the day after, are absolutely the worst. It's just the worst. I don't ever remember crying much my teenage years or since, but I cried that day. I know, what a wimp. But you're tired and, oh, it was terrible. Anyway, getting too off track here. I want to get fast forward a little bit. So I got out of boot camp and then came home for a couple weeks. I worked at the recruiter station so I could continue to earn a paycheck and not get into a deficit on leave. So I worked there, stayed at my best friend's house, and of course I was still dating that girl from high school. And then I went off to Groton, Connecticut for sub school, and I think that was 6 weeks, which wasn't bad. It was springtime. I mean, it was nice enough that we went fishing and, you know, during the off time and that kind of stuff. It was pretty nice. Sub school was pretty easy. Again, got home another 2 weeks. This time I do think I took a negative on leave. And I married that girl. We had planned on getting married, and Dad and his wife helped me pick out a ring or get a ring or something. Maybe they even gave me the ring. I think that's what it was. So we got it resized and I proposed. She said yes. And so, I mean, I was dirt poor. So then all I had was a credit card. That's all the money I had. Just a credit card that I obtained years earlier. And everything we did from this point on for probably the next 3 months was on that credit card. So we went to the airport, got tickets, and I don't know. I mean, the time frames of some of these things are a little faded in memory. Not the important details are still there. So I remember we went over to Dad's house so he could take us up to the airport. We both had 3 bags each. My wife now, you know, we're just coming out of the 80s, so you still had that big hair. We get up early in the morning, and of course she's not used to getting up that early. Well, I guess I wasn't either, but regardless, you get up early in the morning, and she's got that hair that she's got to do, and the makeup and the whole thing. And Dad is just panicked. We are not going to make it to the airport. So he is flying up to the airport in St. Louis, just flying. And I'm like, Dad, slow down, slow down. But he got us there, and there was this, I don't know what you call him, baggage clerk. And we're grabbing these bags, and he says, get my son and his wife to the plane, and he hands them 20 bucks. And the guy just zooms us through, gets us on the plane, barely makes it. Well, it's 6 hours or something from, I don't remember. But let's just say it was 6 hours. We had to go to Chicago and then over to Seattle, I guess. So we got to SeaTac Airport, but we're probably 100 miles from the town we need to go to. And the town we needed to go to was Silverdale, Washington. And I had no idea how to get there. I hadn't thought this far ahead or didn't understand it. Most likely I didn't understand what it was gonna take. So we're just kind of sitting in the airport trying to figure things out. And we read the sign that says, bus to Silverdale, Washington. Hey, this is great. We get a ticket for the bus. The bus shows up and we start loading our bags. We had 3 bags each. The woman on the bus says, you can only have 3 bags. And I looked at her like I was confused. I didn't understand why she was telling me this. She said, you're going to pay extra dollars. And I said, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then I said, but these 2 bags are for both of us. Now, my wife was wearing a very loose sundress. It was baggy. I don't know where she got it. It was terribly baggy. Just trying to be comfortable. You know, like I said, got up early that morning. And I now know that everybody thought she was pregnant in that sundress. And boy, did they all treat us just so nice from that point forward. The bus driver actually calls ahead, somehow or another, to get us reservations at the hotel in Silverdale, Washington. We don't have an apartment. We have nothing. No furniture. We got these 3 bags. That's it. So we get to Silverdale, Washington, which is like 5 miles from base, but 2 miles from base. And we stay in this hotel probably for a week, and we ate Burger King every day because Burger King was right next door to the hotel. It was a Super 8 hotel. You know, to do it today, I wouldn't do it. But there was nothing going to stop me from making this work. So we didn't have a car, nothing. So we started, maybe we got a newspaper, maybe that's what it was. And we started calling around the hotel, apartments. And we found one that we could afford that that we could afford on a credit card. So we got it. Of course, it was unfurnished. And I don't know, we were there about a week, and the guy finally said, hey, I can furnish this for you. You know, give me some extra money. So we gave him extra money, and he put some furniture in it, you know, like a wicker couch and black and white TV. And over time, to be honest, over time, we furnished that apartment very nicely. You know, we walked everywhere. There was a Target that we walked to all the time, and a grocery store, and both of them were probably half a mile away from the apartment, 3/4 of a mile. So we walked all the time. And when we go get groceries, we get a taxi. The taxi come pick us up with our groceries. It's difficult for me to remember if I made her stay there that first patrol, because when we got there, the boat had just come in. And on submarines, boomers, you get 2 crews. You got gold and blue, and I was on gold. The gold crew had just come in from sea, so we had 3 months before we had to go out to sea, which was a lifesaver. That was one of my big worries, was I was gonna have to send her back because we wouldn't have time to do anything as a result of having to go out to sea right away. So fortunately we got 3 months and we was able to get everything settled in. But anyway, I don't know if we got a car that first off season. When we first got there, it was next off season. But regardless, we ended up getting a car. And what I did was I took a taxi down to Gig Harbor, Washington. And I don't know, that was, what I do remember was it was expensive. It was $50. It was a long trip. But the guy said, I got a car that I know I can get you financed in. That's all I needed to hear. I didn't care what kind of car it was. And he got there and it was like, I don't know, 1960 Chevy Bel Air. I know it was a Chevy Bel Air. I don't know what year it was. It was the 60s Chevy Bel Air. Blue, rode like a boat. It floated. You could feel the floating. But it passed inspection. And even when I took it to get base inspection, they were surprised it would pass. It passed so good. But I kept hearing this clunking. Couldn't figure out what it was. And we couldn't work on the car in the apartment complex parking lot. So I'd always take it over there. Now we lived right on the sound. Inlets, Dye's Inlet is what it was called. There was two sections of the apartment. There was a section of the main building which overlooked the sound, and then we were in the back portion. We didn't get to see it, but we could walk over to the yard to the passcode and see the sound. We took the dog over there to go to the bathroom, and we swam in the sound a couple times. There was a park down the hill that you could walk out onto the dock with the sound. It was pretty cool. So I would always park off onto the street down there by the sound and work on the vehicle. And finally I found what it was. It was pretty serious, and it needed welded is what it was. And I couldn't afford a welder, you know, a guy to weld it. I didn't call it around. There was just no way I could afford it. So what I ended up doing is buying one of these short steel crowbars and two C-clamps, not C-clamps, horseshoe bolts, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. U-bolts, that's what I want to call them. There you go. I bought two of those, and I wrapped it around that leaf spring brake in the frame. And surprisingly, it did very well. There was a couple times I would have to go underneath there and tighten everything back up, and all I would have to do is put it in reverse, hit the brake, the emergency brake, and it would shove everything back to where it belonged. I'd go back up there and tighten those bolts up, and it was surprisingly well. It didn't clunk anymore. It sounded a lot better. It was so unsafe. I remember she got pulled over one time because she didn't turn the headlights on. She couldn't understand it. What was wrong? There was something wrong. She just knew there was something wrong. She got pulled over. But we ended up doing better. Over time, we ended up getting a pickup truck, a Ford Ranger. I hated that thing. And so we traded that, you know, we almost immediately took that back and got us a Suzuki Sidekick. And we were there 4 years, and it was pretty successful. We did pretty good. I remember we were so hungry that first week in that apartment. Just starving to death. I mean, we didn't have any food. We were out of money. But we made it. That's the thing, is a lot of people say you just can't do things. And you're right. That was probably really dumb. But once you realize you're in a dumb situation and that you've made a dumb mistake, that doesn't mean you just quit. You got to keep pushing forward. And the goal was either, before I left, was have enough money to have an apartment, be able to pay the rent, or have enough money to send her home and I could go live on the base. After that, I wasn't ever sure how I was going to get her back up there. But that was the idea. Have enough money to send her home if I had to. The biggest fear was I was going to have to go out to sea almost immediately after I got there. So it would have been easy. We would have had enough money by then to send her home. But, you know, I was too junior to get base housing. There was no way I was going to get base housing. Over time, we had considered staying in Washington. I would imagine if we'd have stayed in Washington, we'd probably still be married today. But we came home and we had just difficulties. Things had changed. You know, we were up there all by ourselves, 2,000 miles away from home. And now we had her family involved, and he wanted to run our lives. And, well, nothing against my family, but even my family had ideas on what we should be doing. And so there's a lot of conflict. We would have been better off if we'd have stayed in Washington. I hold no grudges against her. She did a fantastic job. I don't know. She was one of these prissy girls. She really was. Like I said, the big hair, been spoiled her whole life. And she toughened up. I was probably a bad husband. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I was a great husband. My objective was to get her home if there was something wrong. You know, we couldn't stay. But we had looked for a house. I remember finding a house we saw. It was just an amazing house, and $97,000. I still remember the price tag. But I was so stupid. I didn't even know how to get a car loan. We looked at getting a car loan. Didn't know how to do that. I didn't realize you just go to the dealer and get a car with the loan. That took some doing to figure out. But of course, once you start talking to people on base, they helped us get some ideas. It was a great time. I look back on it and I think, how did I ever think that was a good idea? You know, you grow age and wisdom and fears. But the thing is that even while I'm saying that, when I look back on it, the only thing I can look back on is fond memories. That was the greatest time ever that I've had until now. Meeting Carolyn, we've done some pretty cool things. For example, we lived in, national forest, travel around national forest. But once I realized the fear, we stopped. Once we realized it was dangerous, we stopped because of the maturity. When you're that young, you don't stop, you just keep pushing. You don't realize you're in trouble. You just realize, well, there's another obstacle. So fond memories all the way around, even though it was horribly stupid. So if you'll click this up next box, take the video. I was doing something. So if I can inspire you, have fond memories, I guess, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.